Hey guys, how's it going? Xander here. I'm going to be taking you through the process today of creating the character models being used for Ben One Last Time Episode 3. Both Episode 1 and 2 are available right now on my YouTube channel, so if you haven't watched those already, go check them out. Basically, in animation, you've got plenty of model sheets and turnarounds to show your animators on the team how the characters should look on screen. I don't have any of those, really. I just did a couple drawings and I'm like, that's good enough. That's a good reference. Basically, you create model sheets for your characters so that they can look consistent no matter who's drawing them, and that's just something I didn't ever think to do because I've been the only one animating. So like I said before, I was the only one storyboarding and animating this show, so as long as I knew what the characters should look like, I thought that I could save myself some time and just use the previous drawings as reference for the next. As I'm chipping away on this passion project, my goal is to eventually build a team of animators to help speed up the production of things like One Last Time and other projects. But before we get there, I gotta get used to making these model sheets so that anyone I bring onto the team will know how to draw the characters. I've talked about in these videos before how early on I decided to try and incorporate design elements from both Omniverse and Alien Force, but I've kind of found Omniverse to have more simplistic and appealing design theory. Omniverse's art style can easily be characterized by Derek J. Wyatt's use of shape and character silhouettes, and of course the lack of pupils in the eyes. What I find interesting now that I look at it, the Alien Force influence for the most part comes into play with the overall lighting and mood of the scenes these characters are in, since Alien Force and Ultimate Alien feature moments with slightly darker atmosphere. There were many instances in episode 2 of One Last Time where characters like the Omnitrix Hunter were drawn to resemble a more classic Ben 10 style with the shading on his jacket and the more defined facial features. Episode 2 definitely toes that line very thinly, and at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun to dance between the two to some extent. And I know Ben 10 fans have a lot of opinions on the Ben 10 series art styles, so let me know down in the comments below which Ben 10 series had your favorite art style and why. Although now that has me wondering what design concepts could have been introduced to the reboot to make that style more appealing to fans. That might be a good topic for another video. In terms of Ben's character design for this series, it was really important to make sure that you could still tell One Last Time Ben is Ben, and not some dude with a beard. And this is why the model sheet is so important, because sometimes I would start drawing Alien Force Ben with the way his face is shaped, and then sometimes I would want to start drawing the Omniverse Ben face shape. And both styles would end up kind of getting mishmashed into one longer face that was meant to look more mature, and it just didn't look very consistent. So that's why this is so important. In this rendering specifically, you can see the subtle influence of Tom Perkins' iconic lighting streak on the hair, as well as the lighting on Ben's turtleneck thing. Now that we've got Ben drawn and we know kind of what we want to put on the model sheet, let's move on to drawing the actual sheet. You heard me, let's do this sheet. Okay, so for this we're going to need to draw a total of 8 poses, but once we have 5 of them, we can sort of fudge the rest. I'll show you what I mean later. Personally, I feel like it's more natural to start with drawing a character in like a 3/4 view, so that's what I'm doing here, keeping in mind that this is the base for the other angles I'll need to create. Once I have that initial drawing down, I lower the opacity and create another layer on top where I'll begin to draw the other poses for Ben. So in this case, I was drawing Ben's profile. Along the way, I'm trying my best to keep everything along the same level so that when I eventually want to turn him around, the drawings won't be all over the place and his eyes won't be where his legs should be and all this crazy stuff. It doesn't show it here in this screen recording, but I'm using a graph to keep everything on the same level. I recommend you do that as well. So what I mean by cheating the poses, so for the other side of the profile, I decided to flip my other drawing so it appeared symmetrical, only I had to erase the arm on the one side and make sure that the Omnitrix appeared where it should when he turned around. And then I just did the same thing for the rest of the drawings and it ended up looking something like this. Now that the hardest part is actually over, all that's left was to go over each of these poses with cleaner lines and color it in with the palette I've been using for previous episodes. I borrowed many of the colors for Ben's design in this series from Omniverse, with the skin and shadows being tinted slightly purple as opposed to the colors used in the previous iterations of the character. Once that was all done and tidy, I lined up all those poses once more and exported the turnaround as a GIF. I did this in Procreate using the Animation Assist tool, but the same thing can be done in Photoshop with the timeline window. Actually, the guys over at BAM Animation have a great video on turnarounds and tons of other great industry animation tips that I've been learning from as well, so definitely go check them out if you are so inclined. But before hopping into designing Gwen's model sheet and character turnaround, I wanted to take a second to thank this video's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. As many of you know, sponsors are a huge help in funding projects like Ben One Last Time and helping me compensate the folks to help me bring content like this to the interwebs. Surfshark VPN is an app and browser extension that protects you online from hackers and companies trying to take your information, and also allows you to move your IP address to anywhere in the world. For example, with all of the Spider-Man buzz going on these days, I've wanted to go back and rewatch my favorite iteration of the character, but it's not available on Netflix in the United States. But with the click of a button using the Surfshark browser plugin, boom, we're in business. That's just one way to use a VPN. It also adds an extra layer of security as you browse the internet by encrypting your data, protecting your passwords, and keeping hackers and companies from taking that data and saving it for later. Surfshark is the only VPN to offer one account to use on an unlimited number of devices, which is really great. By using my promo code Xander by clicking the link in the description below, you can get 83% off plus 4 months for free. But if you aren't happy, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you're really risking nothing by giving it a shot. Thank you, Surfshark, for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. Many people noticed that at the end of Ben One Last Time Episode 2, Gwen looked very similar to her previous appearances in other Ben 10 shows, Alien Force and Ultimate Alien, with the collared shirt and the blue sweater. Truth be told, this appearance was not intended to be her final design. The camera really didn't show you enough of her outfit to really show you how different it was, which didn't end up being that different at all. So I ended up talking to RodimusCrime on Instagram about Gwen's design and what direction it should go, and she brought up some really great ideas. It's really important that for the redesign of the Alien Force trio in this series, that they all feel like they grew up a little bit. Ben's got a freaking beard, for crying out loud. So when RodimusCrime sent over her suggestions for Gwen's redesign, I leapt at the opportunity to implement them. With this series being set in sort of an alternate universe timeline, we decided to skew towards something a little bit more athletic and of course blue, and I think it's a perfect fit for Gwen in this series. The main things I changed between the drawing I did and these turnaround drawings are the way her sleeves work. In my original rendering, I had drawn it to where there's just a hole for the thumb to poke through. Thanks to RodimusCrime's suggestion, I made it a separate glove that sits inside the sleeve itself. It probably will make it easier to animate as well. Like I said before, I'm just repeating the same process I did for Ben here, and this is the final result. As promised, now that Ben and Gwen have both been shown off here in this video, now it's time to show off Kevin Levin. I thought that doing this sort of video would be helpful for you all to see, as every one of these drawings, animations, and concept pieces take time. I really quick want to give a huge shout out to the patrons that help make videos like this possible. The Kevin turnaround will be available on Patreon exclusively very shortly, as soon as I get the chance to finish it up, but we are working hard on Ben One Last Time Episode 3. You're not going to want to miss out the exclusive stuff that I'm posting there until the episode finally drops. And without further ado, here is Kevin Levin as he will appear in Ben One Last Time Episode 3. How many times can I say that? Thank you guys so much for your patience and support in me making these types of videos and animation. It means the world to me. So until next time, I will see you guys later.